6 o'clock. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, just a reminder to please turn your cell phones off, and council, please turn your microphones on. And please try to speak right into the microphone. Our sound system doesn't pick it up unless you're relatively close. Andrea, could we have roll call, please?
Mayor Bain,
Here.
Councilor Becker,
Here.
Councilor Lundstrom,
Here.
Councilor Quinlan,
Here.
Councilor Scalisi.
Here.
Councilor Sherman. Here.
Okay, we have the minutes for the special meeting of July 2nd. Are there any additions or corrections? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
So moved. Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. 3B, regular meeting of July 8th. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of July 8th? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, those minutes are approved as submitted. Visitors and delegation 4A. Tonight, we have the Junior Main Street group here with us. This group recently took the initiative to take on a project. Mickey George, who is a community health navigator for the Northeast Colorado Department of Health, was instrumental with providing the group with information they needed to move forward. Some communities in Colorado have placed restrictions in parks and recreation areas for smoking and vaping. The Junior Main Street group studied the problem, identified areas of concern, and brought the idea of smoke-free parks and brush to our council. They advocated that it would promote health and wellness for our residents. They provided statistics on secondhand smoke and the dangers associated with it. They even went to our parks and collected bags and bags of discarded cigarette butts to demonstrate the impact they have on the beauty of our open spaces. Council considered the request, made some adjustments, and agreed. We developed an ordinance that will, for the first time, create smoke-free parks and brush. The second reading of the ordinance was approved at our last council meeting. I contacted Mickey George because I wanted to bring this group back to honor them for their exemplary action. I have certificates that I'd like to give to each member of this team that was involved in this civic effort. As I call your name, if you would please come up to receive the award and remain standing as others do the same. Emma Stone. Please, could you stay up here? Okay, Parker Stone. Brooklyn Sherman. Keaton Gregg. Oscar Sanchez. And Mickey George with the Northeast Colorado Health Department. One thing I'd like to say is your efforts have changed the law, and it's not an easy thing to do. You identified a concern, you developed ideas, you put in the work, you decided on an action, and you accomplished your goal. On behalf of the City of Brush, on behalf of the Brush City Council, I'd like to congratulate each and every one of you. All right, thank you very much, very much. I think it's a very good change. Mickey, thank you for all your help with this. Yes, you may. Oh, yeah.
So, next Wednesday, I'm short. So,
It'll work.
next Wednesday, on July 31st, we're going to have a celebration for their efforts in passing the smoke-free parks. We're going to provide a free meal and free swimming and games and stuff for the community. So bring your families and come join us to celebrate our healthy parks.
All right, thank you very much. And you kids have been to 2 or 3 council meetings. We have a lengthy agenda. I don't expect you on this one to stay for the whole thing, so feel free to go when you'd like, okay?
I don't know, did you mention that it was at the Brush Swimming Pool?
It is at the Brush Swimming Pool.
And it yeah, so free swimming and it'll start at 7 o'clock?
It's on our Facebook.
7 o'clock?
Facebook, yeah, and I'll have flyers also at the community barbecue tomorrow too.
Okay,
So,
great.
I brought flyers too.
All right. Thank you again. Okay, moving on to citizen comments. Citizens are invited to speak to council on any item that does not have a public hearing scheduled. There's a 5-minute time limit per person unless otherwise noted by the mayor. Please note that no formal action will be taken on an item that is not on the posted agenda due to the open meeting law provision. However, they may be placed on a future posted agenda if action is required. To better assist you with questions, please submit them in writing to the city clerk and someone from staff will respond. Is there anyone that would like to publicly comment? Yes? Oh, and please state your name and address for the record.
Chad Cox, 2501 Mill Street here in Brush. I represent Western Engineering Consultants on behalf of Colorado Land Processors. I appreciate the opportunity to be up here tonight to talk about the reimbursement agreement for the public infrastructure of which Colorado Land Processors is funding and constructing as part of the Agri-Park subdivision. I know I got 5 minutes, so I'll try and hit it all quick. History for this project began in late 2016, and by February of 2017, the first intent letter was delivered to the city, including the discussion of public infrastructure reimbursement, as well as a request to develop a different portion of the subdivision at that time. Following that, Colorado Land Processors funded Western Engineering to provide engineers' estimates and drawings to assist the city as part of the READY grant request. And then that READY grant helped bring the water line up from, give or take, Superior Livestock north to County Road, well, just almost to the scale house. Let's see here. Preliminary plat for this project was submitted in May of 2018. Through a very extensive review process, obviously for the subdivision, I want to say 53, 56 some odd acres. Colorado Land also funded the entire design of the subdivision, not just the phase 1 infrastructure for Agri-Park Road, which comes in on the north and comes to the south side of the lot, but they also funded the design as part of the city and staff review of the rest of the road to go south and then loop back to Highway 71. Jumping into a few things. I was born in May of 1970, so I'm almost gonna crack a half century. I think my parents probably moved back. My dad would come back here to work for the grain company every summer while he was in college. So I'm sure I consider myself a native of Brush. Maybe I'm off a couple of weeks by being born in Fort Collins. Just in a snapshot, from what I remember in my time here in Brush, 78, I know the grain elevator over here just west of Clayton, or pardon me, east of Clayton was built. I'm not sure of the year. We had Pawnee was built in the around the 80s.
81.
81, thank you.
Yeah, that's why, yeah.
85, the other grain elevator just to the east was built. I don't have the year on the hydroponics plant. 2012, we had Brush Meat Processors, the Buffalo plant, and now in 2019, we have Colorado Land Processors. The point of that history, we appreciate everything that we've worked with the city and staff to get to this point, but we don't believe a 5-year term limit for reimbursement is representative of development in Brush. I think you pull out the hospital, you pull out the schools, those things are gonna come around as time progresses. We're looking at 17 acres for commercial lots C1 through C4. And as part of the reimbursement, we've offered 43 as the request to break whole for the land processors. Right now, there's a difference of about $400,000 on the table that they're bringing in over and above what is standard payback for public infrastructure. Usually it's generated based on the frontage of the infrastructure you build. So, in closure, where we're at is COP's trying to meet in the middle. They're asking, I know the city in the hearing last month talked about 20,000 in 5 years per acre. We're requesting, or Colorado Land Processors is requesting 30,000 over 15 years, which we think is more reasonable to true development timing. And assuming that's over the 17 acres of commercial, and if not, if that is not agreeable, and I know we put it in writing, the request is that COP act as a true developer and have the opportunity to develop those lots and purchase them at the same price they purchased the original 23 acres. And in a quick snapshot, I won't claim to be a realtor. I pulled off the website a variety of, I think, 16 commercial properties in the county. The lowest I found on a acreage, just land value, was at $20,380. The highest is 440, 178, 307. I think if we pull all those out of there and you just focus on the majority, land values are between 40 and 80,000 on pure land. So we don't believe our request is out of line. We're just asking, to meet somewhere in the middle on what they're going to have invested and what the current offer is. So, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be glad
Quick
to.
question.
Mhm.
So on your letter, it had the 43, you're looking at 30 now?
Yes.
Another couple quick questions. On your 34th bullets, the credit for use tax and amortization of balance, can you explain those two? Because those are ones that I had questions about.
Third and fourth ones.
Yeah.
We prepared this May 29. I've been gone a week, so let me see if I can refresh my memory. Our use tax, were we looking to offset for the infrastructure that was built, instead of paying additional dollars, to offset those dollars, instead of a check being written by the city, we would instead offset that against the use tax. That was the idea there.
And the amortization of the balance, Chad, is that, it talked about 40,000 annually over the next 14 years. Is the request for the city to fund that money back, regardless where that property sells at the time?
It was
I'm
an
not understand-
alternative to, instead of the reimbursement on a per acre price, to look at it being amortized. So it kind of an alternative rather than both. It
Okay.
certainly was not both.
Okay. Council have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to publicly comment tonight about anything? Okay. All right, moving on to number 5A. Under Management, Colorado Land Processors LLC, Public Improvement Reimbursement Request. Tyler, have you listed or?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and speak to that. And then the one thing that I needed was from Andrea, our laser pointer.
Oh,
Okay, so a real quick background. Chad did a good overview of kind of where we're at today. But I also, after talking to the mayor wanted to ensure that all of council knew a little bit of the history of some of the other incentives that we provided on the project. And then I'll add a little bit to the history of the project once I get done with these other incentives. Also, in your packet, you have the actual letter from Chad from Western Engineering. That's in your packet as well. So just a reminder to council that when we started this project, we had a lot of discussion about what type of incentives to provide in the city. And each council member has a copy of this as well in front of you. But the city waived $252,000 of the wastewaters plant investment fee. And also part of that, the remaining $588,000, we did offer to allow them to pay that in 2 different years just to help with making it more of a payment plan versus all the money up front. And then on the current project, the city is gonna reimburse $100,000 once everything's built to standard and inspected by our Public Works Director, for the water line. Also, the city's gonna reimburse $45,000 for the sewer line once inspected by the Public Works Director. And also, there'll be $61,000 of reimbursement for the drainage. The city also waived a connection fee of approximately $36,000. Reduced the building permit fee by 50%, which saved the company $17,652. The city also allowed for sequential use tax payments, and Tyler might touch on those in a moment here, but those are typically paid right up front when you start the project. But this is a fairly expensive project, so we're allowing for sequential. So on a monthly, every other month, we're supposed to collect that as we go. And I believe that's one of the items on the list about that use tax being, that item 4 or 3?
Item 3.
Item 3 on there. We also visited with Joanne about that. Normally that's paid right up front, so deducting it from future sales of the property or anything like that, I wouldn't go that direction because it should be addressed now. The city discounted the original land, like Chad mentioned, these from $30,000 to $50,000, $30,000 to $70,000, like Chad mentioned, values of this type of land now. Once the streets are built and the infrastructure put in, we only sold it for $5,000 because we knew that CLP was going to have a lot of investment into the public utilities portion of this, the streets, the water lines, electrical, etc. So that's one of the reasons I came to council and asked you guys in executive session about, can we give a really good sweetheart of a deal just to get in the door, because we knew the streets was going to cost quite a bit. So the land was sold at $5,000 an acre, but I do feel it's an incentive because once the street's built and everything, it might be $50,000 an acre property. We'll never know until we actually sell it, though. We also allowed for excavation and construction of footers and ground prep work before the sale. That was just more good trust and working together. And then on our end, we also had consultant fees. Tyler had down approximately $40,000, but we didn't have enough time today to really pull all those different bills out from RG and Associates and surveying and those type of things. Also, we did plan to go in jointly on a READY grant to put in a lot of this infrastructure out here, but the grant we went to, the READY grant, they didn't have those type of funds to fund an entire subdivision like this of infrastructure. So when we were told we'd only qualify for $150,000, then we told CLP we'll go ahead, the city will cover that cost of $150,000, and then we did get $169,000 through the READY grant. Excuse me, we got $150,000 from the READY grant, and the city had to come up with $169,000. Also, a few other things, we have been working with Xcel Energy with the solar program to help with getting power out there and trying to figure out how to use the solar and the engineers that CLP uses for Xcel Energy, having them work together to try and share some costs. Those savings, we don't know what those will end up being. And we also covered all the costs for getting easements out there from Xcel Energy to provide access point for both the solar and CLP at the same time. And so that's a little bit of the history on the incentives. In regards to the subdivision itself, we have to keep three things in mind. Now, Sean, you might want to move to the left. I don't want to take out your eye with a laser. And from across the room, I'll try and keep this steady. But Just to refresh everyone's memory, when we started this project, Chad's correct, we designed the whole thing out. And it was because when you subdivide land, the typical standard is before you do subdivisions, you have to demonstrate you have water, sewers, roads to all the lots in the property. And when it was put all together, I believe the numbers roughly was about 1.6 million to go to this point here, and about 1.1 million to finish it up. So previously, when Karen Schmink worked here, one of the things we talked about was when CLP explained that the cost of doing all of it was going to be excessive. So what we said was, let's find some options. And so our first option was coming in here and just having this road built here down to this point. And from this point, we were going to call this the first phase. The second phase was continuing. But what the city agreed to do was, in normal cases, although you'd have to build this all the way out, we just said, let's stop right here to help with the project. And when that occurred, part of the discussions at the time was that it would stop here with all the utilities and the paved road. However, we would have a gravel road with like road base coming in just to finish that piece, to have a through road. But then in discussing with CLP, the cost of that, even the road base and hauling and everything, was going to be fairly high. So we worked with them and said, well, okay, we'll have to deal with that at a later phase, and that'll be city's responsibility in the future. And in exchange, cul-de-sac was put in right here, this little circle, so that fire trucks, emergency vehicles can have plenty of space to turn around in case they had to respond out there. So that's really important because that's about 1.1 million left to address out there. And so that's still out there for council in the future. We have to figure out how to pay for that. Or if others go out there, they'll have to pay for that piece of it. The other thing to be very, very aware of is that because there's going to be truck traffic going through here, and employees of passenger cars, employees going out to the work, in, I believe, 3 more years, the city's going to have to build a deceleration lane and turn lane up here. This is why we have a little additional space in there. So that's going to cut out some of that acreage, but also it's a lot of cost to put in those deceleration lanes. That's going to be another cost that the city faces in the future. And I don't have numbers to that, but it's not something that's going to be $20,000 or $30,000. It's going to be fairly expensive to build all the infrastructure for that turn lane going in. So there is cost for the city there as well. The other thing in regards to with per acre dollars and deals and formulas, everything right there, all these squares, those are just conceptual. We do have the current solar facility that's going to go out here. And you're always going to expect some wastelands in certain places when you do these projects. So like we're going to have some waste property back here where there's a corner and you can't do a whole lot with it. We anticipate probably wasteland around this area and over here. And I can't remember if down here, this is called C4. It's another conceptual commercial lot. That one sits down in a hole. Right now that is full of tree debris. From tornado, and also the low-lying area is full of, we're not quite sure if it's groundwater or water seepage from our city stormwater pond that's out there, but it's always has a little water on the bottom, and it sits really, really low, so I don't even know if that water will ever get into the stormwater system to go to the stormwater pond. So there's still a lot of question marks out there, so it's just important that the city council understand those things. And that's part of the reason why instead of trying to get a formula that we're trying to put on something that's incomplete, it's kind of hard for me to do that and give you a real accurate number, but that's where we started with the $17,000 per acre was maybe a good place for us to start. And then at a work session and discussion, that's where the city council talked about it a little bit, and we came up with 20,000 with 5 years. So that's a little history for for the council, and to try and get everyone up to speed, because some council members are new, and some council members have been at the initial discussions of this. So that gives council a little better idea of that.
Let me ask you a question. On the proposed lot 2, which is the conceptual design there, the top 3 are each 5-acre lots, and the bottom one, I believe, is 3.5. Is that where we're coming up with the 17 acres, but the road that they will build only goes about halfway?
Through.
Okay.
Right, so I think that, if I remember right, 17 acres is gonna be all this in here.
Yeah,
I can't remember if it also included C4 or not, but that is in the vicinity. And then this is where there's acreage out here, but we leased out approximately 10 acres in that area right here. But when we leased it out, it doesn't match every corner perfectly. So that's where I say there'll be a little bit of wasteland out there.
but the road improvement coming down to that halfway point where that turnaround is would only benefit
Oh,
about
up here?
about half of that land.
Half, a little less than half probably.
And the other half will have to be developed by whoever comes in there.
Right,
with the
or
city. Okay.
the city,
Okay,
or the city in the future.
okay.
But the one thing that we do know is on our horizon is that deceleration lane, that I believe we had a 5-year window, Tyler, to get that constructed, and we're working on year 2, I believe.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, once we receive the permit to have that access from CDOT, that's when the countdown begins. That by this, if you're gonna start then by this date, you need to have a deceleration lane constructed, if everything builds out the way that the initial plan had
Uh,
been. We're on that trajectory right now.
Is that at city expense?
City expense
All
right
of
now.
it? Okay. Okay.
Anything else, Tyler?
The only other items that I guess are somewhat outstanding on things, and I've been in contact with CLP on this, so it's in the works, but as part of the development agreement, a letter of credit is required. We hadn't received that from CLP at this time, for the 125% of the overall cost of the phase 1, so it's about $1.8 million that we need that. And then the use tax, that was, as Monty indicated earlier, was part of the initial approval. We'll have those broken out. It's roughly $400,000. And CLP was looking in on gathering what they needed, but they also wanted to present what was before you first, before we finalized how we're gonna move forward with that. But that's something that we're gonna get cleared away. And then we met with CLP fairly recently, and in there, Monty had brought up, it would be good to have some type of agreement with CLP with maintenance on the pond, because we'll be, our property will be utilizing it as well, and so sharing the cost on that going forward, working that out with them.
Okay. I'll go ahead and turn it over to council. Because we've got like 5 different items on here, I think it might be important to get council's perception of what you've been told and get some ideas of what everybody thinks about each item on the proposal. Comments?
Personally, I'd like to look at this a couple more weeks before I make a final decision, some of the numbers and things like that.
Okay.
I agree, since it changed from to the 30,000, something's changed, so I'd like to,
From the 43.
yeah.
Okay.
And if we could get a breakdown of costs, costs that they put in and compared to costs that would have cost us, and then we would have sold them the land at the
Mm-hmm.
$50,000 an acre or whatever. How does that look on paper?
Okay.
I can speak to that one. For the estimated cost that is for all the infrastructure, breaking out to what we sold the land at. So if it's about $1.5 million that they're putting in for investment, at 23 acres, that's about $65,000 an acre of investment.
Okay. What I would say, the credit for use tax idea, I'm not in favor of that. I think almost always, I haven't seen that sort of a agreement come in. I think the use tax needs to be paid to the city. And the letter of credit, I think it's important that we receive that letter of credit from CLP. The one, the last item on here is agreement with city at remaining areas of Lot 2 to be treated as sold, whether leased or sold. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's right. I envision that property, I know it's still conceptual, we would still have to subdivide. And I imagine their concern comes over the fact that the solar property moved in there and was leased and not sold, so there isn't any money going back on that. But I would think those frontage lots are more designed for real property, which aren't going to be leased. But I would afford them that protection that whether they are leased or sold, that we would go ahead and honor that, whatever agreement we come up with. The amortization, my belief is that when the property does sell, the city would reimburse them at that time. I don't like the idea of amortizing this over the entire length of the agreement, because we would have to come up with funding to do that, possibly without the property being sold. And it wouldn't be owed until the property is sold, so.
So Mayor, maybe this is a way to make the work a little bit easier, is that if you do get consensus on the credit for use tax, taking that out with amortization and leaving in agreement, and you only really have two discussion points left for your next meeting to really look at.
Oh,
So
length of time
so
and
any
price per
any
acre.
data we need from us, at least we're working with just two items left. If you guys are agreeable to the last item on the list and then striking those number 3 and 4.
Well, I guess I expressed that. Does council would like to weigh in on how they feel about those items.
I'm in agreement with that, Rick.
Are you,
I can agree with that.
Dana?
Yeah. One thing, can you, on the 15-year term limit for the sale of the property, as road work needs to be done, as the roads degrade, who's gonna pay for that? If we're in a lease agreement with them, or this agreement with them, are they gonna cover those additional expenses, or will that be a city expense?
Okay. Okay, so 3 items are 1, 2, and 5. I think we could pare it down to that and get more information and bring it back to council at that time. Anything else? Okay, all right. Moving on to item 5B. Emergency siren discussion, Chief Boss.
I will just hit the highlights from our previous discussion at the work session, and then if you have questions, let me know. Good evening, by the way. So just a little bit of history. We have 3 weather sirens in the city of Brush. They are outdated and in bad need of some updating and some money spent on them if we choose to keep using them. The comm center has the ability to activate them remotely. However, per their policy, they will stop doing that in September. September is also essentially the end of our tornado season. Could bleed into October a little bit, but at this point, each siren will require an estimated $12,000 to upgrade per siren. And that really just gets them to the level that we can manually activate them from this building. That doesn't give us the ability to remotely activate them. If we choose to have the remote activation option, I've been given estimates across the board from anywhere of $9,000 to $60,000 to make that possible.
Is that per siren?
I do not believe so.
That's
That's
an
just
entire, okay.
for the entire system. That would give us the ability to call in by cell phone actually and activate the siren and deactivate the siren by phone. But again, if we just do the $12,000 expense, we have to physically come to this building and manually activate the siren.
Okay.
So that is a quick overview of the problem, some brief statistics. Studies show that weather sirens are typically activated 12 to 15 minutes after emergency alert messages go out from the National Weather Service and other sources. They also show that people tend to go outside and look when they hear the siren, whereas if they receive instructions from emergency alert systems, they tend to just follow and adhere to those instructions. So that's my brief overview. If you have any questions, I'm happy to expound on any of that.
So a question in regards to the comm center, September.
Yes, sir.
So what happens after September if we choose to upgrade the system? Will they still? or
They will not.
They will not do it, but you'll either do it remotely or you'll do it physically?
Yes.
Okay.
So no matter what happens, the comm center is
They're
done in
done in
September.
September.
Yes, sir.
So that manual button that you gotta push,
Yes,
can that be relocated somewhere where there's already somebody in an emergency situation manning a booth or something?
I would assume that's possible, but I'm guessing there would be a lot of expense involved. So, and I don't know where that location would even be. Originally it was the comm center because they are physically present 24/7, but we don't have such a facility or person in Brush, so.
What are the locations we're looking at? We're looking at here, City Hall, and
Out
So-
by the golf.
City Hall, there's one by the golf course, there's one on the east side of town. There's a rumor that there's a fourth one. The fourth one is actually in the county, and not part of our system. And I'm not sure where exactly that's located.
so if you were to if you needed to manually start, then like the magic button hit all three, or does
Yes.
we send 3 people to 3
Nope.
different areas?
The magic button does all three, and it's right down the hallway there in our office.
So how hard would it be to switch from the manual to the automatic in the future? Or do you have to just pick one and go with that?
We can do both. So if we upgraded the sirens as they are, just the sirens, the manual button still will work. The remote activation, my understanding is that's actually been in place for some time, but the computer components are obsolete. And that box is somewhere out near the Pawnee power plant. Not exactly sure where, but if we chose to upgrade, that's where that actual upgrade would take place, but we'd still have the ability to push the button and remote activate them.
We don't have a cost associated with that.
The remote activation cost is all over the board. It's anywhere from $9,000 to $60,000 just for that component. And that's from the same vendor. He's given me a variety of numbers on that.
Okay.
Well, like Dana was saying, if we can get a cost, if we could move it, like to the fire station, I heard that comment somewhere today, that whenever there's always a firefighter there when, well, there's supposed to be one, right? That's what I hear, so,
I can't speak to the fire department.
okay, but I mean, if there's someone down there, there'd be somewhere to push the button, you know what I mean?
Yes, I would throw this out, and again, I can't speak for the firefighters, but they are a volunteer department. I know conversations I've had with the fire chief from Hillrose, Snyder, he made the comment that they're all volunteers. If there's a tornado, they're taking care of their families first, and activating that siren is probably not high on their list, so I'm guessing the attitude would be similar here, but I don't wanna speak for them either.
I would say so, but every time there's a tornado, they're always up on the bridge, so I mean,
Yep.
they're on duty, you know what I mean?
They're excited to go.
Yeah,
I don't
they're-
disagree with that at all.
Paul Acosta, I watch his Facebook, that's how I know tornadoes are coming, he's always chasing the damn thing, you know what I mean, so,
Yeah. I just don't wanna speak for them.
yeah, I get it,
The scary thing about that, though, to me, is you're hoping that person gets to that button and pushes it. If they don't, I think that system gives really a false sense of security to people I didn't hear it, everything's cool. And I know one of the things they talked about was responsibility of people.
Yes.
I mean, all major cities don't have these. People that live outside of town had to have to take responsibility, you know. These things don't come out of the clear blue sky. It's gonna be a storm situation. That's why I believe as technology moves forward, we have the HyperReach system that, I checked that out just this week. And the HyperReach system is so much better because it gives you early warning, gives you before the storm gets there. And like you had mentioned, sometimes these sirens are going off during the tornadoes, they
Or
went
after.
off during that storm. That's too late. You need that information to be gleaned by everybody earlier. The HyperReach system does that. It does it for your cell phone. It does it for your landline. So I got on there today, and one interesting thing about HyperReach now is you can actually check a box also that says whether or not you need assistance during evacuation. So I mean, and the HyperReach is a voice activated. It tells you what's going on. It's just not a siren that gives you an alarm. And for years, people have said, well, which one is that? Is that the warning? Is that the take cover? There's a problem with that. I reached out to the comm center last week, and what's driving this change is a change in either the radio frequency or something that they're doing.
So initially, they have a technology upgrade that they need to do. And initially, they were told that once they do that upgrade, they would not have the ability to interface with our system, so they
Right.
could no longer activate the sirens.
Mm-hmm.
They did find out that after the upgrade, they'll still have that ability. However, they've made the decision that simply as a matter of policy, they are not going to do the sirens anymore.
See, now when I talked to him, I talked to Danette Martin, she did not say that to me. She said since there hadn't been a vote, that the vendor, they said it would make them obsolete, we wouldn't be able to sound them. But, and I know this is real recent, but that the vendor had indicated that after the change, it's possible that the sirens will still work. And if they'll still work, I think it was the hope of council to, I know the parts are difficult to get, but I would like to keep the system in place until it's unreliable, and give a little bit, part of the minutes from that meeting that I looked at said that Morgan County has about 86% cell phone usage. Every year that number is going up just a little bit. So I would like to keep it if it works.
I do have it in writing from the comm center
That
that
they
they
will
will
not-
stop as of September as a matter of policy.
Really?
So
'Cause
I
didn't-
can dig into that and get that to you, but
Okay.
that's what we were
I'd
notified.
like, yeah, I'd like to
so.
see that.
Yes, sir.
Because that played into what I was thinking about it, but.
I think we definitely need to educate people. I mean, if the hyper system will give you a phone call or an alert, if people, I think people just need to take a little bit of responsibility, put those apps, sign up for those text alerts. Because if you're counting on that tornado siren and the wind is howling,
Right.
you don't need a tornado siren to tell you there's a tornado coming,
Right.
you're not gonna hear it anyway.
Might not even hear it.
It wasn't intended to be heard inside your homes. It was intended to bring the
Outside.
people into their homes from the fields. It wasn't to get you out of your basement to go outside and see what's going on. So I think, they serve their purpose for the farmers, and we're moving into, new
Different age.
technology, and this technology is kind of coming to an end. Do we spend the money to continue to run a siren that people aren't gonna hear when they're in their house anyway? Or do we educate people on how moving forward do you get alerted?
See, and I went door to door after the tornado because I'd heard it did work, didn't work. I heard it from my house, but it sounded really muted. But that was such a terrific storm. I'd never seen my tree 90 degrees like this, and it was. So I heard it barely, and that's what I've heard too, is as building codes have changed and we got more energy efficient, these sirens aren't loud inside your home, and you may not hear them. And there was a fear that the elderly wouldn't hear them. Well, I'm 64, so I'm close, and I really think, I encourage everybody to get on the HyperReach, especially if you have a parent or something, sign the thing that they need help evacuating, and if I see a storm coming, I'm going to call my mom and I'm going to tell her what's going on, and I think it is a response, but anyway, the siren over here did not go off. I think, Dana, you heard it in the theater and got people out of there. That was the one that was here at the city.
Yes.
The one at the golf course sounded kind of muted, but I talked to 4 people right around that siren over there. This lady told me, she said, I didn't do anything with my kids. They kept saying it's a terrible storm out, and she thought so too, but she said it's okay because she lives right under that siren. And it didn't go off, and she didn't do anything. And I think that's very dangerous. I mean, if you see it looks bad out, you shouldn't need something to tell you to get down, if you have a basement, to get down and take cover.
And I did during the tornado last year, the comm center did not activate our sirens. Actually, one of my officers made it here and manually activated
Oh,
it.
so that's how
So that's
we-
how it went off. I had to do a lot
Oh.
of digging to find that out. but,
Okay,
um,
okay.
The comm center, they told me they never had the opportunity or time before, during, and after to even activate the sirens. So keep that in mind too, even if they have the ability, it may not take place.
And I
And-
was getting alerts on my phone for 20
Right,
minutes
I
prior
got-
to
yeah.
that, so we knew it was
Yes.
coming.
Yes.
It's on your TV, you can get a radio to give you a better indication of that, and you can do the hyper reach system, and I was getting all three. By the time the sirens went off on that storm, if you didn't know to get out of the way, the siren isn't gonna help you, I don't think.
And the state of Colorado is also getting another, probably a year out, but another emergency warning system. And when that comes into place, the way that works is, for example, I would type up the message, send it out, and it goes through every medium in the area that we designate. So if somebody's driving through, they will get the alert on their cell phone, they will get it voice, text, it'll go up on the signs on the interstate, it will go through radio, TV, basically every means possible. So when that system comes into play in the state, to me, that's even better than HyperReach because you don't have to sign up for it. We circle a
this one you do
geographic
have- yeah.
area and it goes to everybody. So
Okay.
that is coming roughly in a year, but I don't know the exact time frame on that. So,
So
Okay.
we'll get through this tornado season with our sirens.
yes. And the question is, where do we go from there?
Yeah,
So maybe we'll have that in play by then, by next tornado season. Can educate people, sign up your neighbors for the hyper reach. You know, if you have elderly neighbors, sign up, put them on put their phone number in there.
But we should know where we're going for sure, I mean, so we can start training them now while the siren is there, cause that is like a security blanket to a lot of people. Whether it works or not, they do listen to, you know, what I mean, first thing I did, so I mean, we should start now with it, right? I mean, getting people
I
out there and
agree.
getting to sign up while the siren's still going, I mean, so they don't
Oh,
become
absolutely.
reliant on the siren, they start becoming reliant on there, but the siren's still there for now, you know what I mean? Their security blanket's still there, but they can get used to this new medium right now, you know what I
But
mean?
only for
I
2
agree.
more months, right? September, is that
Yes.
when the change is
Yes.
taking place?
I don't have a date in September, they just said September. But
Okay.
yes, I agree. The sooner we start telling people, use HyperReach, sign up, here's how you sign up, the better, and probably the more successful it will be.
Is there a way, Chief, that you can ask the comm center what kind of numbers in the brush community have signed up for that system? Is there any way they can give you an idea of how many people are on it?
I can check with the county emergency manager. He actually manages the HyperReach system,
Okay,
so I can talk to him. But I don't have that offhand at all.
okay.
If we could put messages out on Facebook and our website and just kind of flood it through these next couple months when it is tornado season. I think that would be.
Yeah, I just think, we're chasing, no pun intended, an obsolete, something that's kind of obsolete or that will be obsolete. And again, having experienced that tornado, there is so much noise with branches hitting the roof and the wind blowing and the rain pelting your house and,
And you might have hail, too.
yeah.
We
it's-
didn't,
you-
but
It's
Hill
hard to
Road-
hear. Is that, then it's like, then you open the window or you open the door, is that the siren? And it just seems, like there's so many variables that, is that really the best way to be alerted? Whereas if I have a phone in my pocket or a phone in the house, then I know for sure. I mean, I can recall when we had the flash flood, in September, that came through, started out with all the heavy rain in Lyons, and I remember being at Cables and almost eating dinner and everybody's phone, everybody's looking around because like 15 phones are going off and, flash flood warning, and it's like,
Yeah.
that caught everybody's attention. And I know it's a different scene, the flood was a little quieter than a tornado, but it just seemed like more people were alerted to that, and, that just seems a better way to receive notification.
I say we do both. I say we upgrade the system, keep the sirens. It's just another layer of protection. I don't always have my cell phone on me. Sometimes it's on the charger. Most time it's on silent mode because I'm at school. It'd be nice to tie into the sirens into the National Weather Service when they do issue a tornado watch or tornado warning, to maybe tie that in there so they do off sooner then when the storm's right on top of you. So I'd like to keep them and upgrade them a little better, maybe make them a little louder and maybe so they go off a little bit sooner.
I think,
Good breakdown of those bids that you got for the remote, the 9,000 to the 90,000 or whatever.
so, it's difficult because there's essentially one vendor that handles our system, in our area of Colorado, that's Bearcom out of, Fort Collins, I believe. And it's based on Motorola products. So Motorola divvies up regions and says, this vendor gets everything in this area. So I call them and ask, and I'm fighting an uphill battle there, but if I could talk to other people, I might get a better price, but I can certainly go back to him. Just a quick comment on the earlier warning, there's still a human element in there, which I think is why there's the delay. Because there's not, to my knowledge, there's not the ability to tie the sirens in directly with the National Weather Service
That'd
to
be the thing
activate.
if they could somehow tie that in.
And I don't know of any system that does that. It still would be, I would get the alert and then I would have to either manually activate it or call it in and remote activate it, or somebody in my shoes. I don't know if there's that, I'm sure the technology exists, but I don't know if that exists for the sirens.
Would that person be willing to come down here to a meeting, you think, and go over some of this stuff?
I could try, but I
I mean,
would not be optimistic.
I mean, I've always taught my kids, once the siren goes off, get in the basement, get wherever, take cover.
Right.
And so they've always done that over the years
Right.
with the siren system.
I don't mind asking, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, we've got this listed as an action item, so do we have a motion?
Well, I'd like to upgrade the system. I don't know if I need to make a motion for that, but.
Okay, you
keep the
can.
si- And keep the siren system and, just look into it and see what we can do to keep it, maybe tie it into the National Weather Service or whoever we need to tie it into and see if the technology does exist to do that.
You wanna make the motion to upgrade the system then? Or
What
just,
cost, or is there a dollar limit, is there,
I don't know,
if it's
need to-
tied into
Probably,
this
probably need to,
severe weather?
probably need to look into it a little bit more. I just think it's another extra layer of protection for the community. Not everybody's gonna have their cell phone on them, or you can't just totally rely on the new technology coming in.
But that's part of educating people over this period of time, is telling people if it's crappy outside, turn your phone on
Yeah.
and listen for the alerts,
Yeah, but not, some people are taking a nap or doing whatever, I mean,
Yeah.
not always gonna do that.
Once the tower goes down,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
if the power goes down, the siren is not going off. That's what happened over there. It lost power to it. The storm was severe enough that the power went out to it, and that's why that one didn't go, was my understanding.
Most, if I can comment, most cell phone towers have a backup generator,
Right.
and they're designed anywhere from 30 minutes to 30 days to run on their backup generator, so.
I guess my feeling is that I've never had the sirens be the thing that alerted me. I've always had my cell phone or my TV or the radio alerted me well before the siren, and sometimes the siren goes and sometimes it doesn't, and I feel that people think the siren is imminent, take cover, and if they don't hear it, they're not gonna do it, and I just think that's dangerous.
But I also agree, I think what Dana is saying is, we should alert everybody of the changes that we're looking at doing. But let's not throw away the system we have until we get all that information disseminated to our community.
Oh,
Keep
absolutely.
it until, at least through September, or this tornado season as was mentioned, and then let's move to, when we have better numbers, whether it's 9,000 or 60,000, that's a pretty big gap, so
Yeah.
we can narrow that
Yeah.
down, we know what dollars we're talking about.
Sounds like a motion. Would you like to make
Well,
that a motion?
I don't know, there's a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor
Yeah,
right
just
now.
comment.
Well, my motion is to try to update the system,
Yeah.
the siren system, tie it into the National Weather Service, maybe have it go off 5 minutes earlier,
But the information we have from the chief
I
is
know.
that that
We're
may
not
not
in
be.
control of that. We can't control that, though.
We don't know if that technology exists or not.
I think we, posted it as, direction
Discussion.
or discussion, so you could.
Right, yeah, we could, well,
more info or something, if that helps you.
yeah, we could request more information or have a motion. Keith's got a motion on the floor, though. Only you can amend that motion or withdraw that motion to request more information.
Sure,
That's
I
up to
can-
council.
I can amend it to request more information.
Okay, you'd like to request more information?
I'll second
Because
that.
once if we don't update now, we can't go back and update later, right? Is that what you said? We can't, if we choose not to update our system, the sirens, then we can't go back. Once we're done, we're done.
No, I think we could go back, you know, if we left the sirens in place for the next 3 or 4 years and decided we wanna upgrade them, we could. The challenge is, how much more work would it be, at that point, or how much more expense? And the gap is, if we stop using them now, and we decide we wanna use them in 5 years, what have we done in between? Is it using HyperReach, is it using other methods? And then why would we be going back, because those aren't working, but we still have to fill that gap.
So where are we?
We need more information,
Yeah, I
and we need to.
More
push the
information?
overreach
Well,
up until
I'd
we
also
can
like to know
figure out-
what other towns do, maybe farther east, you know, that are in Tornado Alley, a little bit farther, see what they do with their systems and, you know, get a little more information from a little bit further east too, 'cause there are more tornadoes.
Okay, and I think that's what I'm hearing is we want we want a better estimate of what it would cost to upgrade the
Better
system,
numbers.
okay? And a more detailed explanation of maybe whether it could tie.
the siren system into the National Weather Service, or whoever issues.
We want to
the
know if that's
storm warnings,
possible. Okay,
if that's possible to.
okay, so I guess that's a request for staff to follow up on? Okay. Okay. Moving on, 5C, intergovernmental lease purchase agreement between the City of Brush and the Brush Rural Fire Protection District. Monty?
Okay, this is our final step in the new fire department building, the bays. You might remember that we did get quite a bit of money from the Department of Local Affairs that helped fund over half of the project, and then the remainder of that was funded by the City of Brush in partnership with the Rural Fire Board, Brush Rural Fire District. Fire Protection District, I think is their actual name. Anyways, long story short, this lease purchase agreement, it's been vetted by our city attorney, by their district's attorney. We went through it a few different times. We brought the council drafts of it in the past, and finally we got our final document here tonight. And just real quickly, the lease purchase amount for a vested right into the building is $244,958.50. There's a interest rate of 4.25%, and the term is 10 years. Annual payment is $30,578.20, and that'll start in August, I believe. So if council approves it, we'll get this to a signed copy to the district. And I believe they're having their meeting this Wednesday, special meeting this Wednesday, so we can get it fully executed and start that lease purchase.
Okay, I would look for a motion to either approve or deny the lease purchase agreement.
I move we approve the lease purchase agreement.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. We have a second. Further discussion? Andy, a roll call vote, please.
Mayor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Becker,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi,
Yes.
Counselor Sherman.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to 5D, DOLA EIAF Tier 1 grant application for a 2019 rescue pumper for the fire department. Monty?
Okay, this is a request for the council to approve us to submit an application for energy impact funds through the Department of Local Affairs. We have this week to pull this together as a last minute decision and discussion with the the rural district. And they're meeting also this Wednesday to get us a letter committing to this project. And essentially, it's a $700,000 project. The $700,000, we're gonna seek 50% of that, 40 to 50% of that from the Department of Local Affairs through a grant. And it's in partnership with the Rural Fire District. So we're excited that one project went so well. We're getting ready to start our next project with them. A little background on the rescue pumper truck is right now we have a pumper truck that is a city truck and the district has a rescue vehicle. This is actually taking 2 vehicles and we're gonna get rid of 2 and end up with 1 because for both of our purposes and our ISO ratings, each of us has to have either a pumper or rescue vehicle. This is a combined one. So it'll be a new piece of equipment. The $700 is a higher estimate just so that we stay within budget. And there'll be a cost share between the district and the city on our portion of it, of the vehicle. And at the next council meeting, we'll go over what the application that we submit. So this is just to approval to submit this application. And if we do get awarded it, then we have to come back to the city with an actual contract with Department of Local Affairs. Exact
Oh.
same process with the fire department bay building that we put up and were awarded the grant funding.
Do we know how long the lease purchase timeframe for?
Excuse me, this is gonna be an outright purchase.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
it's not gonna be a.
Yeah, so we're not gonna do a lease purchase on
Okay.
this one. And as long as we have our share, they have their share.
Okay.
And DOLA comes through with 40-50% of the funds, then it'll just be an outright purchase.
Okay. Okay, so I'd look for, entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove the grant application.
I'd move that we approve grant application.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Discussion. Andrea, roll call vote, please.
Mayor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Decker,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes.
Counselor Scalisi.
Yes.
Counselor Sherman. Yes.
Okay, moving on to 5E, Golf Course Sprinkler System Bid Award. I have Monty/Lance on this.
Okay, I'll start out and then I'll ask Lance to go over the green document in front of you in regards to the different costs. But this is a project bringing back the golf course. We've already had a long-standing good relationship with the foundation as far as getting the golf course back up to par. No pun intended. But it has been a long process, as far as acquiring the golf course, doing some of the fixes, partnership between the JNN Foundation, Pez Foundation, putting money towards assisting with that project. Those fixes range from the new parking lot that's up there, quite a bit of improvements to the fleet of vehicles that are there, i.e. golf carts. And our next big challenge is the sprinkler system. Near as I can tell, the sprinkler system is between 30 and 40 years old,
50,
or maybe it's 50 years old.
50 years old.
50 years old?
And
Oh.
so the challenge is, the pipe is getting older, the sprinkler heads and parts are getting harder to find and more expensive because they're not the style that we normally use anymore. Don't have much control system there. The technology to run the sprinkler system is an old antiquated technology. And the sprinkler system itself is very inefficient, so it uses way more water than what we should be using on a golf course. So we did have Lance go out, it's been within the last year, I believe, to get an engineer that specializes in these large sprinkler systems. Did a study on it, came back with some cost estimates, but we're right in the middle of finishing up the parking lot project, so we held off on that a little bit. But the last 30 days, Lance received quotes, or actually bids, on what it would cost to construct a new and efficient irrigation system out there. So This is the next step in the golf course. It's a little bit pricey. We don't have the funds to do this outright, so after Lance goes over the bid cost, I'll talk a little bit more about the lease purchase option that we have available to us. So Lance, if you would, go over the bid process and then what you received.
Sure. Actually, back in 2015, when we first took over the golf course, we hired Brian Knighton from Irrigation Technologies, and he did a study of our irrigation system, what our options would be, and how to move forward. At that point, the system we knew was always kind of the lion in the closet, where we knew it eventually had to be fixed, but it was still working okay, although we still had to make about a $40,000 fix on the well system way back when. And we got original estimates of the cost of the sprinkler system. And at that point, like Monty had mentioned, we thought that the getting the kitchen area ready and also the parking lot area was what we needed to do before we moved on to the sprinkler system. Well, since that time, we've had numerous problems with our sprinkler system, and so this past year, issue after issue has came up, and we revisited the sprinkler system again and seeing if we could get the updated costs and all that sort of thing. So, and not only the updated cost, but actually go out to a formal bid, because the estimates are so far off. You know, like Chief was saying about the emergency system, 9,000 to 60,000. Well,
Yeah,
we were
which is-
getting estimates from 800,000 to 1.4 million on the sprinkler system. So we did have a formal bid process. We did hire someone to oversee the bids and everything else like that, and we did ask for companies to come and give us those bids. And we ended up getting 3 bids after that process. And with that being said, we ended up getting a price that's actually cheaper than what we were expecting. I mean, we were expecting closer to the $1 million range. We did get a bid in for $864,600 from Dunick, and they're a very reputable company. I think they would do they'll do an extremely good job over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Sean, myself, Gary Alexander, and Brian Knighton, who was the engineer who designed have been talking to many different golf courses where they have actually designed the irrigation system and installed it. So we feel very comfortable with that, and we just feel it needs to be done. I mean, right now we're spending hours upon hours repairing sprinkler systems, and it's a 50-year-old system, and now we're even having problems with our main line. So I don't look at this as a 2019 issue. I think this is going to be a 2049 issue where we don't have to worry about it again. We keep the gateway to our community. It's beautiful. If you go down 76 and everything's green, if we dry it up, it don't look as good. And it's one less recreational opportunity that people have in Brush. And staff strongly recommends that we give the bid award to Dunick for $864,600. With that cost, there will be an additional cost for a pump house and a little bit of electrical work, which is probably between another $20,000 and $25,000. So, but I think this is just for the award for the bid for Dunick as far as this goes right here. And then the other talks can happen at a later time.
And that is the low bid of the 3, right?
That was a low bid of the 3, yes. The next lowest bid was $100,000. I mean,
Just over $1 million.
$2,304.
Okay.
So,
Do they take out the old system too?
yes, that's part of it.
Oh, it
And-
doesn't stay in place then? I thought maybe
No,
they.
we take out the old system, and actually within that old system, we're going to try to sell back as much as we can as far as parts go to other small golf courses that still might be on the same systems that we are and everything like that. So we are gonna get some money back from our old system too.
How long Lance, do we know how long it takes from the time that they would begin work on it, how long a period of time to put a sprinkler system in on our golf course?
The timeline that they've given us is that it'll start September 16th, and they'll be completed before the new year.
Okay. So is that gonna impact your golfing season?
It's
It has
actually,
to,
it's
right?
actually the perfect time.
Oh, it
Our
is,
last
okay.
tournament is the week before that.
Oh.
And we set that up on purpose, of course. And then that way, there will be some casual golfers that it'll impact, but, if you talk to anybody out there that's a part of golfing, the golfing community,
They want,
it's, you know, they're fine with it.
and we know that company is ready to go on that date? We
Yes.
have their, we would
Yeah.
have their commitment?
They're the ones who gave me the timeline, they're the ones who gave me the commitment, and
Okay.
they're just waiting for, one way or another to go either way.
Okay.
One question, Lance, like with, the company you're recommending,
Uh-huh.
you know, they were, bidding a Toro versus a Rainbird.
Yes,
And the Rainbird's just a few $1,000s more. Is there any preference from your staff, Toro, Rainbird, which is the one to go with?
Toro, I mean, that was a part of the research we did, is that we called, probably 8 to 10 golf courses around the area that,
Oh.
that have Rainbird and have Toro. And we've got a much better feedback from, Toro, especially on the, area if there's ever some problem solving and everything. They have a great staff that's only in Loveland, and they have people on staff that can, if we have issues, will be down here immediately. We didn't feel as though Rainbird offered that, and that's a big part of it too. So, we feel very comfortable with Toro products, and that's what we have right now is Toro
Oh.
products.
Okay.
One question. So on the install the two-wire system, they're giving us a credit of 48,000? Are they
Yeah.
not gonna do that, or why?
We are, because when we first bid it or talked about it, we were all gonna do satellite systems. And this two-wire system is what was actually, and it's kinda luckily we rebid it and everything else because it was only seen across seas and a lot of the England courses and everything else. Well, now it's becoming very popular in the United States, and it's a lot easier to check the systems. There's not as many satellites that are all over the golf course as what would been with the other one. And then, so overall, it's just a cheaper price. So we wanted to make sure that we are not only getting a very good product, but a cheaper product too, so. And I don't know if you, do you have anything to say about between two-wire and satellites from your conversations?
The biggest price difference too is there's less wire being used, less copper, so that's a lot of the price difference. It is, I will say on the Toro, it's state of the art. I mean, we'll have a weather station out there. We'll have the ability to put in sensors in the ground, so if it's getting dry, it'll add water to the course as needed. Things like that, things that I can't do, Gary can't do other than by sight, so it is top of the line. And there's a 5-year warranty on everything, so if there's a sprinkler head that just dies, you call them, they ship you a new one, you put it in, and you're up and going again, so.
And like Monty said, with those, the sensors and everything we have, it'll be very efficient as far as water usage too. Right now, with it being the pneumatic system that we have, if there's a little bit of a leak in an airline or whatever, that the water just bubbles and runs until someone goes up there and sees it. So it could run for, a day or two and before and then you have to find the airline going back to the system, because it's just
It's old.
yeah, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. The other thing about efficiency on this one is, keep in mind, it's water efficient, but it's run by the wells that are out there, and those wells cost a lot electricity
So
wise.
it's energy
So
efficient.
you're gonna have energy efficiencies
Right.
out there as well. And, the other thing that we're gonna be doing along with this project is a new, like a well house building that'll
Right, the
cover
pump
the
house
wells.
building, yes.
That is truly insulated, and you can
Hmm.
heat it
Yeah.
with lot lower cost than what the old way they used to wrap it with tarps and everything, and then put a heater underneath it, is really old way. So it should save money in other ways too, and staff time. And
Right. And one other thing that if you look on number 4, not number 4, but number 3 on the alternates, it's a 200 feet of the 3-inch HD PE pipe. That will, we're already doing it now, but this will make it a lot easier. It'll connect into Pettus Park, where we can also then water Pettus Park on well
Oh,
water
oh, good,
and not city
good.
water. Because right now, we can do it, but it's not as easy as it will be once this is connected.
Okay.
So Lance, I have a question with this $864,000. Is that all coming from the city, or do you anticipate receiving any money from any other organizations or grants or
Well, you know,
foundations?
the grants, no. I know the foundation has been in contact and they are, they have never let a project go by the wayside. So I can't really speak for the foundation itself. However, at this point, this would be just city money, other than, if we do, from what it sounds like, we can't finance it, you know, directly in one payment. As a golf course and everything else, we do have fundraising ideas that we want to do to put towards it to help alleviate some of that payment. Will it pay for everything? No. We're gonna have to ask the foundation, and it's gonna have to be a decision the city wants to make, whether or not they want to keep the golf course.
So let me shift gears just a little bit and talk about lease purchases. So because this is within our general fund, or it's a enterprise fund that's really supported by our general fund, a lease purchase is an option that we have, that it's kind of owned by the lending institution until you pay it off. And so we can work with a local bank to do a lease purchase. And things that we consider is how the lease purchase is structured, interest rates important. We have to make some decisions on how much we feel we can put down this year. Preliminary discussions that we've had with Joanne is in the range from $100,000 up to $310,000 would be a comfortable range to put down on this in a lease purchase agreement. And of course, the higher you go, the less your payments are in the future. And we've kind of juggled around the thoughts of between a 5-year lease and a 10-year lease as some options. And so the number that we have here, $864,600. Also keep in mind that we would include an additional $20,000 because the building we're talking about putting is not part of this. Our crews would have to do that. And there's a little electrical work we've got to do too. Putting in a electrical box or
Like a transformer, yeah.
transformer out there. So it'd be roughly $884,600 for lease
Okay.
purchase. So, and we're rounding up on these just to make sure don't go over budget. Couple things that are important is, if council approves this bid award contingent upon a lease purchase agreement through a local, bank, we, we'll have to do a supplemental budget at some point this year. And, if it's like $100,000, you know, it's not that big of a deal, but if we get up to the $300,000, then that's a true supplemental item that we'll have to look at. And the funds that I'm looking at right now, Community Enhancement Fund, General Fund, and the Water Fund. And they'll have different varying amounts of contribution to it. And, but we'd have to put that together, and that would be an actual document you guys would approve. We would put it together and we'd bring it back here. So tonight it is really accepting the bid as represented by Lance with that additional $20,000 and contingent upon getting a lease purchase.
So we need that in the motion then, the
Yeah.
contingent, okay.
Yeah.
So
Any
will
other-
we make a formal, request to the foundation for funds?
We've had discussions already, and so we're just waiting for responses.
Any other questions? Okay,
Just, I guess one statement is, it's kind of exciting getting to the end of the big project, so I can't think of anything else after we've done almost the entire clubhouse out there, we've done the entire parking lot. There's funding in place now for the basement to be redone down there.
And we've started that.
The kitchen was totally remodeled. And now this is like that last step of the big items. In the future, we do see some work to be done on the cart barn. But a lot of that
That'll be
is
pretty small.
pretty small compared to these others. But none of this could have been done without the foundation because they've been very active in supporting this project. So we'll continue visiting with them, Heath, and then, but this will take it another step, is knowing that we've got at least the lowest bid approved at this point.
Right. I don't know who mentioned it, but I don't think that a 9 holes is in the discussion.
No, not after seeing the bids come back for the first time.
Right, right.
And it's the lifeblood of the system, right? Water, golf
It
course.
is. It is. I mean, that's name of the game when when we're taking care of a golf course, so.
Yeah,
We've got a lot invested in that golf course.
We do.
To our community, we owe it to the foundation to make sure that we
absolutely.
I mean, and I think that too, we knew that, I think that this was
Yeah.
coming up. It's just, I think that now it's just, it's like, you know, being a homeowner too, you know, there are just some big catastrophic expenses that creep up.
Right.
And this is one of them, and you just have to bite the bullet and pay the bill.
I will say this, I mean, and not everybody's a golfer, but I think a lot of the community has enjoyed the facility. And over the last couple years, since we did the parking lot and the upgrades and the building and everything else, people have a place to be very proud of when they come to Brush. And I think that says a lot, and I think this will just put a little bit of the icing on the cake. And like Monty said, there shouldn't be another project like that out there for a very long time.
Okay. All
And
right.
if we approve the bid, contingent on the lease purchase agreement for Dunick?
Dunick, yeah, I think it's Dunick. I think that's the way I've been saying it.
Yeah,
Other
yeah, that's a
people.
weird spelling.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the bid as presented, contingent upon a lease purchase agreement. Do I have a second?
So,
Dan, second. Any further discussion? Andrew, call vote, please.
Mayor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Becker,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
yes,
Counselor Scalisi.
Yes.
Counselor Sherman.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Lance. Moving on to finance.
I make a motion to approve city expenditures from July 8th through the 22nd of 2019 in the amount of $333,044.62.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Bain,
Yes.
Counselor Becker,
Yes.
Counselor Lundstrom.
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan,
Yes,
Counselor Scalisi.
Yes.
Counselor Sherman. Yes.
Okay, moving on to staff reports. Please, Chief. Mr. Boss.
Good evening again. We've been busy, very busy. Last week we had a stabbing. We helped the county out with the shooting they had. 5 of my staff members were involved in assisting in that. So yeah, we've been very busy. Totally different topic. We received funding from you guys to buy a new van for our community service officer for Lisa Lebsock. We bid that out in January. We accepted a bid in February. Last Wednesday, they showed up with the van, and it's not at all what we ordered. It's not even the same color. So we're starting all over with that. I did actually today get an email from a dealership in Greeley that has exactly what we want in stock. The other dealership told us that they couldn't get a new van until January, so that might skew the finance numbers actually, because we had a check all ready to go last week, but other than that, that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Chief. Okay, Community Service Director Lance.
Just a couple things. This past week, we did Parks and Rec Week, and it was a big success. We had quite a few people that participated in everything. Probably the biggest hit, of course, was the mud volleyball and the horseshoes and all that went on at Memorial Park, and things went well. Like to thank Andrea and city staff also for recognizing us today during a little reception with our Parks and Rec staff
Yeah.
for the month. This is National Parks and Recreation Week. And tomorrow, we got a great event going on in conjunction with the chamber and all the businesses around town. We have the community barbecue that will take place over at Eastmoreland County Library. The food will be starting to be served at 5:30. bison tip fajitas, hamburgers, and hot
Bison,
dogs, and then all the businesses from town will also be bringing in food. And then we have a kind of a cool band that's going to be playing from 6:30 to 8:30, and it's a Bruce Springsteen tribute band. So should be a pretty fun
Yeah.
evening. Hopefully the weather holds out and everything, but we end up bringing in 600 to 700 people to that every year,
Oh, yeah.
or serving that many meals, and it's quite the event. And Melody does a great job at the chamber promoting it and everything else, and the city crews do a lot of work setting it up and stuff. And so we want to welcome everybody in the community out there, and it should be a really good time. So.
All right, thank you, Lance. Community Development Director.
No updates from me tonight.
Okay. I'm gonna do this for you this time. You asked for this many times. Our bestest and brightest, Matt Gordon. You have anything today?
Actually have something today. I've been representing the city on the Complete Count Committee for Morgan County
Oh.
with the 2020 census. We have a meeting this Thursday at 10:30. It's at the Fort Morgan City Hall to finalize some of our committees and how we're going to start getting this process rolling. Andrea knows all about this. It's pretty intensive, but so far we've had limited participation. I realize it's sort of far out, but I just wanted to put it on all your guys' radar that meeting is 10:30 at Fort Morgan City Hall, just in case you wanted to be involved in the census. That's up to you guys, but I'll be there. That's all I got. This Thursday at
This
10:30. And then if you're not sure, or you lose information, send me a text or give me a call.
Matt, Laura from the library, she's talked about how they're being active with the census as well. Is she part of that group?
She hasn't shown up to the meeting so far, but from what I understand, the Complete Count Committee interacts with city governments, county government, prominent businesses, local districts. I mean, any and everybody they can to get the word out to have people submit their own surveys. So I imagine the library is like a center point for that outreach.
Any estimate on how long that meeting is, do you know?
The last time we were there was about an hour.
About an
Yeah.
hour? Okay.
This one might be a bit longer since we are deciding on committees and what specific delegations everybody's going to be dealing with.
Oh, okay.
So, but now it's on your radar.
All right,
That's all I got.
thank you. City Clerk, Andrea.
Okay, in your packet are upcoming meetings and other announcements. Again, we're gearing up for our November election, and Monday, August 5th at City Hall at 7 p.m. I will hold a candidate informational meeting. So it's always helpful if members of council could come to that and answer questions for any citizens that are interested. And please get your feelers out to people and encourage them to come to that so we have a good turnout. I just got notified today, and I think in front of you, some of them have the invitation for the CML Fall District Meeting, Thursday, September 19th in Fleming. And if you could get an RSVP to me so I can get you registered if you want to go. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. City Administrator, Monty.
Okay, 3 items. First one, the Quiet Zone project. In front of you, I've given each of the council members a copy of the letter that was sent to me. And this is essentially a proposal for design services for our consultant to work on the Quiet Zone. And then attached to that is a schedule. And the schedule shows 2 different things. If a 4-quadrant gate is the option that we go with, how long it takes to get that all put together. And then the second option is if we have the raised medians put in to this project. And so those are all highlighted on the schedule for you. But essentially what's gonna happen is we're gonna wait about 30 to 45 more days to see how the PUC, Public Utilities Commission, what the results are from a hearing that they held about a month ago. Because that determines whether we go with the 4-quadrant gate or not. If the ruling is not in favor for communities with 4-quadrant gates to be installed, then we probably won't go that direction. Then we'll probably look at the other direction. So that's all in front of you, just keeping you apprised of the progress. And after that PUC determination by their judge, then what'll happen is I'll bring the consultant out to visit with council directly at a work session and talk about these two options so that she can get guidance on which way to go. Okay? Best case scenario, quiet zone, year and a half. Worst case, 2.5. That's an update there. If you have any questions on that, just give me a shout. The other update is the solar, community solar garden out at the Brush Agro Business Park. They're looking at, in the next week or so, mowing the entire place, and then within 30 to 45 day window, coming in and start leveling the property. And then shortly thereafter, you'll see them come out, and it only takes them a month or two to put up the whole solar facility. It goes very fast once they get the ground leveled and everything. So, once they get to the leveling over the property, I'll let you guys know, and then they'll give me a better calendar at that time. But it'll be something to see because those will go up very fast. We'll start working with our subscribership. Last thing is, Joanne is out, I believe, till Wednesday. Is that right, Andrea?
Yep.
When she gets back Wednesday, first order of business is work on that lease purchase. And what'll happen is, depending on, I'll give as soon as she gets back, then we'll see how long it takes a bank to get us lease purchase pulled together. But then, we'll probably have a special meeting called. And that special meeting, Andrea will just reach out to you. It'll be a relatively short meeting, so it could be a lunch type meeting or something like that again.
Okay.
Depending on what you guys respond to Andrea. That's all I have.
Okay, moving on, number 8, mayor and council reports. Are there any reports? Heath?
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we get a city mascot, kinda like, the brush schools, you know, they have Digger Dan.
Yeah.
You know, the Colorado Rockies have Digger. But, yeah, something like that, something like the Colorado Rockies have, something fun. Doesn't have to be a farmer or a rancher, but some kind of mascot for the city. Larry already.
I was looking at Larry. Larry or Matt, I don't know.
Stretch it out so everybody will fit in it, that's what he said.
Larry volunteered to go in at first.
Okay,
But, I think it'd be something cool for the community, you know.
so a city mascot.
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
maybe like Digger or something, you know, with the brush colors.
Oh, the Sioux district, or school district might have a problem with Digger. I don't know.
Something like that. The Rockies have, I think it's Dinger. Dinger.
They have Dinger, yeah.
You know, something fun.
Okay,
It's very common for Asian cities to do this, by the way, so I was just telling
get
you
up
this.
there if you're gonna talk,
Oh,
so
yeah,
we
yeah,
can
no,
capture.
It's very common for Asian cities to have mascots. I studied abroad in Japan and South Korea, and a lot of the cities have literal mascots, and they name them out. I would love to be a part of this. I love this. Yeah. There's a lot of, like a lot of opportunity with that, and a great way to draw people into the brand of what your community is selling, I'd say.
So
Okay,
is this
yeah.
a project for Matt?
Yeah, I mean, it's turning into that.
Okay, everybody give that some thought.
I have been Digger Dan before,
There you go.
and it was a lot of fun, you know, you give the kids high fives and just, you walk around and, you know, it's kind of fun.
My
So I
wife,
think Larry will have a fun time.
my wife did the, yeah, okay. My wife did the mascot for Say No to Drugs. I think she fell a couple times and they thought maybe she didn't say no. But anyway, she had fun doing it though. Any other council reports? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned and we have 2 items